For our New Year's team-building trip, our boss, in a fit of holiday cheer, decided to fly the whole company to Miami for New Year's Eve. But when we got there, he stuck the three of us, the company's top salespeople, in a $10 a night, mixed-dorm hostel. He and everyone else checked into a 5-star private villa. Talented people can thrive anywhere, he'd said with a smug grin. Consider this a little exercise to build character. The moment he left, Kevin, our sales king, coolly sent a single text message. A major client immediately replied, saying they'd be delaying their final payment by 6 months. Jessica, our sales queen, made a simple phone call. A loyal client of 3 years promptly announced they would not be renewing their contract. As for me, I called my family. Hey Dad? Yeah, about that $10 million contract we just nailed down. You can go ahead and scrap it. This was beyond absurd. I've heard of bosses casting people aside once they've served their purpose, but I've never seen one chop down his own money tree at the roots. To be honest, we were stunned when he led us to the front door of that grimy hostel. Before we left New York, he had promised us his 3-star employees, a huge surprise. So the regular staff got a 5-star resort, while the three of us who had single-handedly brought in 9 figures of business for the company were supposed to sleep in a dorm. Can someone please tell me what part of this is the goddamn surprise? Seeing the thunderous looks on our faces, the boss clapped his hands together. You three are the pillars of this company. Staying here will sharpen your resolve, which will only help you bring in even more business. Kevin was the first to snap. Boss, this is a company retreat. What's the point of sharpening our resolve? He asked, his brow furrowed. And why do the other employees get a 5-star hotel while we don't? That's when the boss's wife, Brenda, let out a derisive snort. Oh, Kevin, don't play dumb. My husband, Richard, has too soft a heart. He pays you salespeople far too much in commission. The millions you three take home every year have left the company with no money for your hotel rooms. Her words hit us like a slap in the face. So that was it. They thought we were overpaid. But our commission structure was written in black and white in our contracts. We earned every penny based on our performance. And sure, our commissions were high, but the profits we brought in for them were 10 times higher. The moment I pointed this out, Brenda just smirked. Mia, that's where you're wrong, she said coldly. It's the company's kindness that allows you to earn so much. The rules have nothing to do with it. Seeing that arguing with her was pointless, Jessica turned to the boss. Richard, you have to give us a real explanation. We've worked our asses off for you, bringing in deal after deal. Is this really how you're going to treat us? You could hear the hurt in her voice. She'd been with the company since the very beginning, a loyal employee who'd helped build it from the ground up. Before Richard could even open his mouth, one of our colleagues piped up. Come on, Jessica. You guys make millions a year in commissions. What's the big deal about paying for your own room? Yeah, another one chimed in. If I were making that kind of money, I wouldn't even take such a high commission. The boss and his wife were kind enough to give us jobs. We should show a little gratitude. Listening to them all brown-nosing, I couldn't hold back any longer. That's a load of crap and you know it, I said, my voice rising. The company is paying for your rooms, isn't it? Boss, this retreat was supposed to be all expenses paid. Are you really telling us we have to cover our own accommodation? The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Finally, the boss spoke. He sighed dramatically. Kevin, Jessica, Mia, my wife is right. I've been too soft on you. The high commissions have made you all arrogant. You're our top salespeople, right? The most talented? Well, talented people can thrive anywhere. This is my final decision. Now stop making trouble. With that, he turned and led the rest of the staff toward their 5-star paradise, leaving the three of us standing on the curb in front of a sketchy $10 hostel. The second he was out of sight, all three of us pulled out our phones. We all made our calls, then put our phones away in near-perfect sync. Kevin spoke first, his voice dangerously calm. If he wants to play dirty, so can I. That $3 million payment can wait another 6 months. Jessica shrugged. Don't worry about my end. That major client I've managed for 3 years won't be renewing their contract next year. I offered a sheepish smile. And I just told my dad to kill that $10 million deal. Truth be told, I was the youngest of the three and not quite as experienced as my 2 colleagues. But I had one major advantage. A very rich father. The business his company alone fed to ours was enough to keep the lights on. And then some. If our boss wanted to make an enemy of all 3 of us at once, then we were done playing nice. I couldn't wait to see how high and mighty he and his wife would act when their cash cows were gone. After handling our business, we booked ourselves rooms at the same 5-star resort. We were on vacation after all. Even if we had to pay for it ourselves, we were going to enjoy it. We had just settled in by the infinity pool, soaking up the sun, when we saw Richard and his flock of employees walking toward us. The moment Brenda saw us, she let out a little laugh. See, honey? I told you. They're loaded. They just paid for their own 5-star rooms. The company didn't have to spend a dime. She clapped her hands. Actually, since you're all here, Now is a perfect time to announce the 21 new regulations for the sales department. Listen up. As we stared in disbelief, she meticulously read from a list on her phone. Rule number 1. All salespeople must strictly clock in and out at the office. Missing a punch will be treated as a 3-day unexcused absence. Rule number 2. All client chat logs must be submitted for daily review. Rule number 3. Top-tier sales commission will be reduced from 20% to 2%. She wasn't even finished before the three of us burst out laughing. As salespeople, we were constantly out of the office meeting clients. If we were forced to clock in and out like desk jockeys, how were we supposed to generate any revenue? It was obvious what this was really about. She thought we made too much money and wanted to cut our pay. But we had earned every single one of those deals. Kevin was the first to object, but Richard just waved him off. Kevin, you can't have a company without rules. We may be a small firm, but we need to maintain discipline. He puffed out his chest. Besides, if it weren't for me giving you the opportunity, would you ever have met such high-level clients? Would you have closed such massive deals? The least you could do is show some gratitude instead of complaining. You're a bunch of vipers, the lot of you. What did you just call us? I surged forward, ready to give him a piece of my mind, but Jessica grabbed my arm. Mia, don't, she whispered. If this turns into a fight, we'll be the ones who lose. I took a deep, shaky breath. She was right. There were only 3 of us. We were outnumbered and outgunned. Our defiance had clearly infuriated the boss. He hadn't expected us to push back. He announced he was taking everyone else out for a lavish seafood dinner, pointedly excluding us. When the 3 of you learn how to be obedient employees, you can come and find me, he sneered, then wrapped his arm around his wife and walked away. Kevin watched them go, his jaw tight. That's it. I can't work here anymore. I'm quitting. Jessica sighed. A rival company has been trying to recruit me for ages. Maybe it's time I gave them a call. Hearing that these 2 powerhouses were about to hit the market, I saw an opportunity. On the principle of not letting incredible talent go to a competitor, I put on my most charming smile. Kevin, Jessica, I said sweetly, how would you 2 feel about coming to work for my family's company? I can personally guarantee you double the salary and commission. My family's company was a publicly traded corporation, much larger than Richard's little firm. After graduation, my dad had wanted me to start there, but I'd had some misguided notion about making a name for myself without his help. But I saw things clearly now. I was going to inherit the business eventually anyway, so what was the harm in starting a little early? I immediately called my dad and explained the situation with Kevin and Jessica. He was so thrilled he sounded like he was about to cry. My darling girl, he exclaimed. You've just brought the company 2 golden geese. He greenlit their hiring on the spot, promising to double their salaries and commissions, just as I'd offered. Kevin and Jessica were practical people. They agreed to resign as soon as the retreat was over and start at my family's company. The whole ordeal had forged a powerful bond between the 3 of us. Even though we were paying our own way, we had a fantastic time in Miami. For the next 2 days, since we hadn't come crawling back to them, Richard and Brenda started posting passive-aggressive nonsense on their social media. Grateful employees are the best employees. I'm so blessed to have a team like this. The comments were a cesspool of sycophants. The company gives us a livelihood. Of course, we should be grateful. Exactly. As an example, I'll be taking only half my commission from now on. Some people are just ungrateful snakes. They've broken the boss's heart. Reading their posts, I could only laugh. Without the 3 of us, the company would have gone under years ago. There wouldn't be any commissions for them to virtuously refuse. Their petty digs didn't bother us in the slightest. In fact, I cheerfully liked all of their posts. The day the retreat ended, the 3 of us got to the airport early. But when we tried to check in, the airline told us we had no return tickets. I was floored. The company had booked round-trip tickets for everyone. How could our return flights just be canceled? Just then, Richard and his entourage swept into the terminal. Jessica marched right up to them. Brenda, did you cancel our tickets? Brenda smiled sweetly. I did. So what? You 3 are so rich you can afford 5-star hotels. Surely a little plane ticket is nothing to you. Our company is small, you know. We have to save money where we can. That is the lowest thing you could possibly do. I shot back. Even if you were going to cancel them, you should have told us. All the flights back to New York are booked. How are we supposed to get home? How you get home is not our problem, Richard sneered. And let me be clear. If you're not at your desks tomorrow morning, I'm docking a month's pay from each of you. He paused for dramatic effect. However, since I have such a generous heart, if you agree to my wife's new sales regulations, I might be willing to give you a few extra days to find a flight. Those aren't regulations, they're insane. Jessica snapped, her voice trembling with rage. Show me one other company in New York that treats its sales team like that. Richard, I've been with you since the very beginning. Is this how you treat a loyal employee? Don't you dare pull the loyal employee card. Brenda shrieked. So what? Is your bond with my husband stronger than mine? This is our company. We make the rules. You're just a salesperson, a dime a dozen in this city. Who do you think you are? Brenda's words were so vile that Jessica turned pale. Kevin looked like he was about to punch Richard in the face. I held them both back, taking a deep breath. Boss, does it really have to come to this? He practically spat on the floor. What, you think a bunch of worthless employees have the right to challenge me? I gave you every opportunity you ever had. Cross me, and I'll make sure you never work in this city again. I sighed and pulled out my phone. In that case, there's nothing left to say. I spoke into the receiver. You can come in now. A second later, a deafening roar filled the air. A private jet was descending, circling the airspace above the airport. The sleek Gulfstream G650 touched down on the tarmac, its engines winding down to a low hum. The stairs deployed with hydraulic precision, and 2 flight attendants in immaculate uniforms descended, followed by a man in a sharp black suit. My father's personal assistant, Charles. Richard and Brenda's mouths hung open. The rest of the employees, who had been snickering behind their hands moments ago, went dead silent. Miss Mia, Charles said, walking straight past a stunned Richard to bow slightly to me. Your father sent the jet. He was concerned that commercial flights might be unreliable. I smiled, tossing my hair back. Good timing, Charles. We were just discussing alternative transportation. I turned to Richard, whose smug expression had dissolved into something resembling panic. You were saying something about us never working in this city again? Richard stammered, his eyes darting between the jet and me. Mia, is this yours? My family's, I corrected. Though I suppose that's a distinction without a difference at this point. I gestured to Kevin and Jessica. Shall we? Kevin picked up his bag, a grin spreading across his face. After you, boss. As we walked toward the jet, Brenda found her voice. It was shrill and desperate. Wait. You can't just leave. You still work for us. If you get on that plane, you're fired. I stopped on the first step and looked back. Brenda, honey, I called out, my voice carrying over the tarmac. You can't fire people who have already quit. Oh, and good luck with those new regulations. I'm sure your loyal employees will love them. We boarded the plane, leaving Richard and his entourage standing in the terminal, looking small and insignificant. As the jet taxied away, I saw Richard yelling at Brenda, his face turning a fascinating shade of purple. Once we were in the air, sipping champagne that cost more than our entire hostel stay, the mood shifted from triumphant to serious. So, Kevin said, swirling his glass, we really did it. We quit. We did, Jessica agreed, though she looked a little wistful. I gave 7 years to that company. It feels weird. It's about to feel a lot better, I promised. Dad has the contracts ready. You start Monday. And seriously, double the commission. No cups. Kevin raised his glass. To new beginnings. And to not sleeping in a hostel. To revenge, I added quietly, because I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. Monday morning at my father's company, Sterling Corp, was a revelation for Kevin and Jessica. They were given corner offices with views of the skyline, actual assistants, and access to a client database that made Richard's Rolodex look like a pile of sticky notes. But while they settled in, I went to work on the demolition. The first domino fell at 10 a.m. I called the legal department. I need a review of all non-compete clauses for incoming employees. Specifically, ensure that any previous agreements signed by Kevin Jong and Jessica Miller are void due to breach of contract on the employer's part. Constructive dismissal due to hostile work environment. On it, Ms. Sterling, the head of legal replied. Next, I called my contact at the industry trade journal. Hey Sarah, got a scoop for you. Top talent exits. Why the city's best sales team just walked out on Richard Thorne. By noon, the article was live. It painted a brutal picture. A CEO who cut commissions, enforced draconian rules, and stranded his top earners at an airport. The industry grapevine lit up. At 2 p.m. my phone rang. It was Richard. I let it go to voicemail. He called again. And again. Finally, I answered on speakerphone, motioning for Kevin and Jessica to come into my office. Mia. Richard's voice was cracking. What the hell is going on? 3 of my biggest clients just called to cancel their orders. They're saying they're moving their business to Sterling Corp. That sounds like the free market at work, Richard, I said coolly. You poacher, he screamed. You stole my staff. You stole my clients. I'll sue you. Actually, I said, Kevin and Jessica came to me. And as for the clients, well, people do business with people they trust. And it seems they trust Kevin and Jessica more than they trust you. I'm warning you, Richard hissed. You don't want to make an enemy of me. Richard, I laughed. You made an enemy of me the moment you put me in a hostel. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a $10 million contract to sign. You know the one. My dad says hello. I hung up. Kevin looked at me impressed. Remind me never to piss you off. Duly noted, Jessica added. But the real blow came 3 days later. Brenda, in her infinite wisdom, decided to double down. She posted a long, ranting video on LinkedIn, accusing us of corporate espionage, theft, and moral bankruptcy. She named names. She played the victim. It was a PR suicide bomb. The comments section didn't go the way she planned. Former employees, people who had left years ago, started chiming in with their own horror stories. Unpaid overtime. Sexual harassment ignored by HR. Verbal abuse. Then came the clients. One of Jessica's old accounts, a manufacturing giant, posted a public statement. We do not tolerate unprofessionalism. Due to recent public conduct by leadership at Thorn Enterprises, we are severing all ties effective immediately. That afternoon, Richard showed up in the lobby of Sterling Corp. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. His tie was crooked. He demanded to see me. Security called up. Miss Sterling, there's a Mr. Thorn here. He says it's urgent. Let him up, I said. But escort him. When Richard walked into my office, he didn't yell. He looked defeated. Mia, he said, his voice quiet. Please. You have to stop. Stop what? I asked, leaning back in my chair. The bleeding. We've lost 60% of our revenue in 3 days. The bank is calling about our line of credit. Brenda is a mess. And, I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry about the hotel. I'm sorry about the tickets. Just tell the clients to come back. Tell your dad to back off. I looked at him, really looked at him. This man had built his ego on the backs of our hard work. He had humiliated us for sport. I can't tell clients what to do, Richard, I said. They have free will, just like we did when we quit. I'll give you anything, he begged. Equity. A partnership. Just come back. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city. You know, Richard, I said. You told us that talented people can thrive anywhere. You were right. We are thriving. But you're not talented. You were just lucky to have us. I turned back to him. I'm not coming back. Neither are Kevin and Jessica. And as for your company, maybe you should consider it a character-building exercise to start over from scratch. Richard left without another word. 6 months later, Sterling Corp's sales division had broken every quarterly record in the company's history. Kevin was driving a Porsche. Jessica had bought a penthouse. And I was running the department. We were at a celebratory dinner at a Michelin star restaurant when my phone buzzed with a news alert. Thorn Enterprises files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Check this out, I said, sliding the phone across the table. Kevin read it and let out a low whistle. Damn, that was fast. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy, Jessica said, taking a sip of wine. Apparently, I read from the article. The final nail in the coffin was a class action lawsuit filed by the remaining employees regarding unpaid wages and breach of contract. Brenda's new regulations? Kevin guessed. Yep. Turns out, docking pay for missed punches is illegal when you demand 24/7 availability. We raised our glasses. To karma, I said. To karma, they echoed. As we laughed and talked about our upcoming real company retreat, to a private island in the Maldives, fully paid for by my dad. I thought back to that night in Miami. The grimy hostel. The smug look on Richard's face. He had wanted to teach us a lesson about our place in the world. He succeeded. We learned that our place was at the top, and his was in the past. Just then, a waiter approached our table. Excuse me, Miss Sterling? There's a delivery for you. He handed me a small, cheap envelope. No return address. I opened it. Inside was a single, crumpled $10 bill and a note scrawled on a napkin. For the hostel. I looked at it, then at my friends. I burst out laughing. Richard? Jessica asked. Richard, I confirmed. I handed the $10 to the waiter. Keep the change, I said. And bring us another bottle of your best champagne. The end.